4 a.m. The room is silent except for the slow, relentless ticking of a clock. The world outside is asleep, wrapped in comfort and dreams. But inside this dim apartment, the night feels heavy, almost suffocating, as if time itself is watching someone struggle to breathe under the weight of another failed day. A man sits alone at his desk, shoulders slumped, staring at the cold glow of a laptop screen. Around him lie scattered envelopes stamped with the same brutal words, "Past due." The blue light from the screen paints his tired face, while the rest of the room sinks into darkness. Only hours earlier, the final pieces of his business collapsed like a fragile house of cards. Months of effort, endless meetings, sleepless nights, all reduced to a quiet email that simply said no. Outside the window nothing has changed, yet inside his world everything has fallen apart. His body feels the defeat before his mind can fully process it. Cold sweat gathers on his neck. His chest tightens as if a heavy stone has been placed on it. The numbers on the screen blur, not because they are complicated, but because exhaustion has finally claimed its victory. He worked harder than most people he knew, 18 hours a day chasing something called success. Yet deep down a terrifying question whispers through the silence. What if hard work alone is not enough? What if effort without direction is just another path to quiet failure? And in that fragile moment between exhaustion and clarity, a realization begins to form. He is not losing because he is lazy. He is losing because every morning begins in chaos, because the first hour of his day has never truly belonged to him. This is the story of a man who lost everything except one small chance to begin again. A story about how 5 simple morning choices can slowly rebuild a broken life and transform the silence of dawn into the birthplace of success. His name was Elias, a man who once believed success belonged to the lucky and the relentless. He thought the secret was simple: work longer than everyone else, push harder, sacrifice sleep, and eventually life would reward the effort. For years he chased this belief with stubborn determination. But every morning of his old life began the same way. The alarm rang too late. His hand reached for the phone before his eyes were fully open. Messages, notifications, emails, all rushed into his mind like a storm before the day had even begun. Within minutes he was already reacting. A negative message ruined his mood. A competitor's success made him doubt himself. A delayed payment created panic. His mornings were not his own. They were controlled by whatever appeared on a glowing screen. The snooze button became a quiet symbol of something deeper. Each press delayed more than just waking up. It delayed responsibility, discipline, and the version of himself he always promised to become someday. Inside his mind, a constant conversation repeated itself. Why does everyone else seem to move forward while I stay in the same place? Why does progress feel so close, yet always out of reach? Deep down, he longed for something simple yet powerful, a small sanctuary in time. A moment in the day where no message could interrupt him, no expectation could judge him, and no outside noise could control his thoughts. And one quiet morning, sitting alone with the growing weight of disappointment, Elias faced a painful truth. If nothing changed, his life would slowly fade into something ordinary, unnoticed, and quietly forgotten. The pressure did not arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, like water leaking through cracks in a wall. Investors who once spoke with excitement began sending shorter messages. Meetings were postponed. Promises turned into silence, and silence slowly turned into distance. At the same time, the world outside seemed to celebrate endlessly. Every time Elias opened LinkedIn, he saw another announcement, another promotion, another smiling photo of someone achieving what he had been chasing for years. Each post felt like a quiet reminder of how far behind he had fallen. The stress began to leave marks on his body. His thoughts felt slower, like moving through thick fog. Concentration slipped away in the middle of simple tasks. Even small decisions suddenly felt heavy, as if his brain had lost the strength to carry them. Morning after morning started to feel like stepping onto a battlefield. But the enemy was not the market, the competition, or the economy. The enemy was his scattered mind, his lack of focus, and the habits that quietly sabotaged him before the day even began. He started to understand a painful truth. If the structure inside his life remained broken, no amount of effort could save the results outside. Working harder was only building a taller tower on an unstable foundation. This realization created a new kind of tension. It was no longer about surviving another stressful day. It was about confronting the uncomfortable fact that the real problem might be the way he was living, thinking, and starting every morning. Then one small mistake changed everything. One rush decision, made during another chaotic morning, caused him to lose the last major client keeping his business alive. And in that moment, the fragile structure of his work finally collapsed. The email arrived with only a few polite sentences. No anger, no long explanation, just a final decision. The partnership was over. When Elias finished reading it, the room fell into a strange, hollow silence, the kind of silence that appears when something important has just ended. He stood up slowly and walked toward the small bathroom. The early morning light was pale and unforgiving as it slipped through the window. When he looked into the mirror, the face staring back felt unfamiliar. Tired eyes, unshaven skin, and a man who looked far older than his years. For a long moment he simply stared. The exhaustion was not only physical. It was the weight of months spent running in every direction without a clear path. All the meetings, all the emails, all the endless activity now felt like motion without meaning. A painful truth surfaced in the quiet. He had mistaken being busy for being effective. His calendar had been full, but his mind had been scattered. What he once called productivity had really been avoidance, a way to escape the deeper work he was afraid to face. This was the lowest point, the place where excuses finally lose their power. No investors to blame. No unlucky circumstances to hide behind. Just a man standing alone with the habits that had quietly shaped his life. The future suddenly looked dark and uncertain. The room felt smaller, the morning heavier. For the first time, Elias allowed himself to admit that everything he had built was gone, and he had no clear idea what would come next. Then, in the middle of that silence, a simple thought appeared. Clear, sharp, almost uncomfortable in its honesty. If he could not control the chaos of the world, perhaps he could begin with something smaller. Perhaps the first battle to win was the way he began his mornings. The next morning arrived quietly, just like the many mornings before it. But something inside Elias had shifted. Instead of waiting for motivation, he made a simple decision. He would wake up at 5 o'clock, before the noise of the world could reach him. The first morning was uncomfortable. His body resisted the alarm, begging for the familiar comfort of sleep. Yet beneath the resistance was a new determination, a quiet promise that this time he would not negotiate with his old habits. During a long night of reflection, he had discovered a simple idea practiced by many successful people. The first hour of the day could become a sanctuary, a protected space where the mind could grow stronger before the demands of the world began. He called it his sacred hour. 60 minutes dedicated not to reacting, but to building. No messages, no scrolling, no outside noise. Only deliberate actions designed to strengthen the mind and prepare for the day ahead. Of course, the struggle did not disappear. Every morning his instincts tried to pull him back toward comfort. The warm bed, the glowing phone, the easy distractions. But discipline slowly began to replace impulse. His thinking also began to change. Instead of saying, "I have to wake up early," he repeated a different sentence to himself. "I am the kind of person who begins the day with intention." And with that new identity came a simple commitment. 5 habits, 1 hour, no excuses. Every morning, while the world was still dark, Elias would begin rebuilding his life from the inside out. The first habit Elias practiced was silence. Each morning he sat quietly, eyes closed, breathing slowly while the world outside remained asleep. In those calm minutes his racing thoughts began to settle, and the storm inside his mind slowly turned into a steady, quiet center. The second habit was movement. He started with simple exercises, stretching, push-ups, short bursts of effort that awakened his body. Within days he noticed the difference. His blood flowed faster, his mind felt sharper, and the heavy fog that once followed him each morning began to disappear. The third habit was deep learning. For 20 focused minutes he opened a book or studied something new. Sometimes it was business wisdom, sometimes language learning, sometimes the ideas of great thinkers. Each morning added a small brick to the foundation of a stronger mind. The fourth habit was mental rehearsal. Elias closed his eyes again, but this time he imagined the day ahead. Not only the victories but also the challenges. He pictured himself responding calmly to problems, making clear decisions, and staying steady when pressure arrived. The fifth habit was what he called the lead domino. Before the world woke up, he identified the single most difficult task of the day. Instead of avoiding it, he attacked it first, when his energy and focus were at their peak. Weeks passed, then months. The changes were subtle at first, almost invisible to others, but inside, Elias felt a new kind of strength growing. It was not loud confidence, but a quiet certainty that he was finally in control of his direction. Those small habits began to compound. What once felt like failure slowly became a powerful lesson. With a disciplined morning and a focused mind, Elias started building again, this time with clarity, patience, and a foundation strong enough to support real success. Years later, when people asked Elias about the moment his life changed, they expected him to mention a brilliant idea or a lucky opportunity. But the truth was simpler than that. His transformation did not begin with a breakthrough, it began with the quiet discipline of ordinary mornings. He often reflected on the man he used to be. A man who felt chased by time, reacting to every message, every problem, every distraction. Now the relationship had reversed. Time no longer hunted him, he had learned how to guide it. The greatest lesson he discovered was this: success is not something you suddenly receive. It is something you slowly become. And that transformation often happens in the unseen hours when most people are still asleep. Your past mornings do not decide your future. No matter how many chaotic days you have lived, tomorrow always arrives with another sunrise. And with that sunrise comes another chance to begin again. The language of success is not written in dramatic moments. It is written in discipline, repetition, and the quiet courage to keep showing up when no one else is watching. So ask yourself a simple question. If you truly owned the first hour of your day, if you protected it and used it with intention, what version of yourself might finally emerge? Because in the end, success is rarely built in the noise of the day. It is patiently constructed in the silence of the morning, one habit, one decision, and one sunrise at a time.